So, what I'm going to do in this video is try and kind of make the database part of this more generic. I've already been through this once, and the kind of process took me again almost an hour. But I thought, and there was a lot of me just kind of faffing around during that and trying to work out what to do. So I'm basically going to redo it now, but in a more kind of condensed format. I'm going to try and go through all the steps that I went through, but I'm going to try and do it in a more condensed format. So if I seem more assured and like I know what I'm doing going through it this time, it's because I've already been through it, not because I'm going to kind of know where I'm going all the way through. But essentially, I'm looking at the kind of fake user DB with its add user, find user by ID, and use a session DB with its add session and find session, and thinking, these things look very, very similar, and can I kind of make them more can I have something more generic, ultimately because I want to be able to then replace something with a Mongo connection, and I want to replace something with a Mongo connection, not two things. In this case, I've got a user DB and a user session DB. Obviously, if those two things were being stored in two different places, say one was being stored in a file system, one's been stored in the database, then yes, there'd be two different things. But here I'm going to try and say, well, look, let's do everything in a database, in the same database, and we'll come up with a kind of a model for doing that. So the first thing I'm going to do here is actually convert these to classes, and this was actually one of the last things I did previously, but I'm going to make it one of the first things I do here. So I'm going to say that is new user DB, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this into a class. So I'm going to be able to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Just reformat this as a little as a class. Something like that. We've got there. That's so I'm going to go and rename that that interface and just add the word interface on the end, just to make it clear what it is. And I'm going to do the same thing to that one as well. So then we'll come back to the tests. One other thing I should do now is so on my laptop, which I'm on now, I've not got the Mocha Explorer kind of running there, but what I have got here is I've set up a little kind of package.json script with test watch, with just basically the watch flag on the end of it, so it'll kind of watch the tests, which are now broken because I've obviously kind of broken this stuff here. In fact, actually that's broken for a different reason. That's complaining about those things. Let's just cancel that. Run that again. Should error because we've find is by okay, right. So that's good. Let's just change that to a string. Let's change that to a string, and let's change that to a user. Okay, we've got passing. We've got our test passing again, which is good, and we've converted that that fake user DB to a class, and I'll now also convert the session DB to a class as well. So yeah, let's take that down here and do that. Say that's going to be a new user session DB. Implement that. In fact, something I might not have needed to have done. So that works there. Do I even need to do that? Does it like that? Doesn't like that. So okay, back test the parsing. That needs to be implements user DB interface. Let's get rid of that. Go away. Okay, so we've got a user database class. We've got a user session DB class. What I did earlier was I basically derived a user session collection for a start off, and a user collection, and then use that to create a common collection class, which ultimately resulted in a common database class. But I'll try and do the kind of the collection one first. So I did something along the lines of export class collection, and I think I needed to do an interface at the same time. Interface collection interface, and that's going to have add, which will take a record of type T, and it'll return a record of type T, and we're going to have a find. So this is one of the things that that threw me earlier about how to define the find command, and this is going to take a function which is going to be a record of type T and returning a boolean, and that probably wants to be wrapped in that, and that's going to return type T. Why doesn't it like that? I think actually it just wants possibly that. Why does it? I doesn't like it. Possibly like it because I haven't defined T there yet, and I'm actually going to define T on the collection here. I'm going to do that. Is that what it wants? Why is it not liking that? Parameter declaration. Unless, yeah, no, that's right, isn't it? That should be. Why is that not working now? Of course, because I'm an idiot. That's what it wants. So we've got that interface collection. So now we're going to have a collection that is going to implement the collection interface, which needs a type, and so that wants a type, and that's going to be, so we want to add those methods. We're going to take that object there and just shove that in there. So that's going to take record, new record, return that. We're going to have a private records, which is going to be of an array of type T, and we're going to have a constructor that is going to initialize records like that. And then we're going to replace users with this.records. So that should then work. And I'm going to replace the find with that. And that's going to go in there like so. So that's the predicate going to run on there. And then we're going to have this.records just there. And that's going to be record. That's going to be record not found. That's going to return record. So hopefully it's kind of clear that what I've done there is created something relatively generic that looks a little bit like this. And so what I can do then is say, I can create a user collection. So this will be, so what I'll do is I'll just put user collection equals new collection type user. And there I'm going to say return user collection dot add registration details and get rid of all of that. And here I'm going to say return user collection dot find, and find is going to be that. So then I can get rid of all of that. And likewise, I can do the same thing in here, but it's going to be on ID rather than username. And I should then also be able to do the same thing here, but do that for session collection, and that's going to be a type user session. So down here again, I can do return.add, and this is going to have to be user ID, and I need to set token, otherwise it won't take that as a session. And I can get rid of all of that. And here I can say return session collection.find, and I'm going to pass in that function there. So I can now get rid of all of that. And this, what's that complaining about? Find predicate T boolean, so it doesn't like the what I've put up here, but we can fix that, I think, just by doing that. Maybe that'll work. So collection, yes, so the one thing I've kind of cocked up here. Let's just take that back. It's on the add session, because I'm creating that token like that, I need to keep that. So I'm going to go back forward again, replace all that stuff, come back down to the session. That's how I'm creating the user ID, the token ID there. So I'm just going to replace that in there. And now hopefully we're back to surpassing again. So I've done that. So now that also means I can get rid of that old session record. I can get rid of that old users record there. And what I've done is made that made it a bit more generic. I've got a kind of a collection-y thing there and a collection-y thing there. But now I'm thinking that what I actually want is a database. And so I'm going to create another interface called DB interface. And where collection was typed, the database isn't going to be typed. Because I want it to be one database to be able to be used by all collections. So the database itself can't be typed, whereas the collection was a collection of a particular type. But I think that's going to still have a find and an add. But what I did, there's probably kind of like better ways to do this, but I kind of thought there's a little bit of a hack. I thought what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to define the collection there as a string. So you tell it what collection you want, and you pass that in. And then we're going to have, so in fact the T is on the methods, not on the interface, and that may well become apparent y. So I'm going to have db, and that's going to implement db interface. I'm going to implement those methods. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually have something very similar here. I'm just going to copy all of that. This might make it slightly harder to follow, but it'll save a bit of time. So I'm going to say I've got db, and it's going to be the type of this object is going to be key string. In fact, actually, I'm going to make that collection string, and that's going to be put that unknown. No, I'll make that let's make that unknown. So that I can put this dot db is a new object. Now we've got add there, and we want to make that typed, and we want to make that typed. We want to add the collection in there as a string, and we want to add that into there as well. And we want to say this.db, this dot collection, not this dot collection, collection dot push, and we want to say there this dot collection dot find. And what I'm going to do here, so what I did have here is do a little if statement that said if not this.db.collection, this.db.collection equals new array. And I think I did the same thing. I originally put the same thing there, but then realised I was doing the same thing, so I created a little private method called ensure collection, which took a collection as took the collection name as a string, and then just ran that so that I could then say this dot ensure collection like that, and then I could just replace that just to make that a bit neater. So where did I get that T any? That's wrong, isn't it? That shouldn't have been find T any. That should have been record T down there. I don't know where I kind of got that T any from. That was wrong. That should be record T. That's record T. It's because it implemented it as. Interesting. So what did I set? Did I make that any, or what did I do there? I must have made it any. So that probably needs a little. So that's not great, but I mean this is only a. This is only going to be a fake database anyway. So, but yes, we had that. And having done this, I now realise that I could say, bear in mind the test is still passing, I could do const fake db equals new db, And at this point I realised that actually what I could do here, I thought I don't want to, having created, we have one more step actually, before I kind of do the thing with the database. The next thing I think I did was to pass the user collection in. So I gave this a constructor, and I had a private user collection, which is the type collection user, and I had a constructor that took a private user collection, which is the type user. But I didn't need that one, did I? Did that, and then just did this dot, this dot, this dot, and then just passed that in as a parameter. I think they're also, let's just check that it's actually passing. Yeah, we're all still green, and I think I did the same thing here. Take that, pass it in, session collection, user session, and then I can just use that as this. And what I'd kind of realised then, having done that, having done that part of it, I then realised that actually what I wanted to do was just pass in the fake database. So I just took that and then thought, okay, what it's going to do, it's going to be a fake DB there, that's going to be DB, so that's going to be DB interface, and I thought I also needed to then define private collection equals user, and then I could just do this dot fake DB add this dot collection. I could just do that, I could do that, I could do that. And I think what it needed here was I needed to do that to make that work, and likewise there, just so it could work out the types. And then whilst we've got an error, why have we got an error? We've got an error because we're not passing in the fake DB. Maybe that'll, yep, it's now about passing again. So same thing here. Fake DB is type of DB interface. We can get rid of that. Just need to define private collection equals user session. So we can do that. It should be this dot collection, and then that can be user session there, and that's going to be fake DB. And then when we save that, we're back passing again, and we can see then session collection becomes irrelevant, user collection becomes irrelevant, and then the whole collection, it's the whole collection class and interface becomes irrelevant as well. So at this point, I then went, okay, let's have a new file. Let's call it db.ts. And from there, I took my database class, put those there, and that wanted the UUID piece, so we've got that one. We can now import DB interface. In fact, let's go DB from source DB. That gives us that. We'll also now do new file user db.ts, and we'll also do user session db.ts. So from there we can take that from there, put that across to there. That actually should just be DB, not fake DB. It doesn't need to be fake. Call it the real thing. That can have a import all missing things. User DB interface is in user API at the moment. That can probably do with coming across to here. Now that we have the quick fix, add that into there. Quick fix that. So we can get rid of that from there. Let's just quickly move that out of there as well. And we'll take that from there. User session DB, put that up there. We need to bring the UUID across because that was used in the user session. We can import all missing things, so that's got that. I think that's okay. DB interface, that can be renamed to just DB because it's a real thing. So this is now all kind of real code. We're not going to delete this stuff now. That can stay. That can go. That can go. That can possibly all go. That can be imported. That can come from there. That's no longer a fake user DB, that's a real user DB. Let's just rename that user DB. Let's rename that one session DB. Let's just kind of keep the case consistent as well on that one. So hopefully at some point now we'll test the back passing because everything's all kind of imported where it should be, nearly. Bring that in. Is that all we need? I think that's all we need. So we'll get rid of that import. So our tests are passing. We've now got 3 new classes. We've got a DB class, which defines our DB interface. We've got a user DB, which defines a real user DB. We've got a user session DB there. We've not modified the tests. The tests haven't changed. So they're still as they were, which is good. All we've done is kind of modify the code that's been around the test, and we've managed to bring, so we've now brought more code under test, which is good. And now I've got one DB class that's now kind of basically it's just an in-memory database that I can now look to implement another one of these, but that uses Mongo if I wanted to. So yeah, that was just a bit of refactoring to give me a single database class.